What's up, y'all? So I wanted to share real quick as I'm driving down the road why ultimately we have decided, and I guess have always decided, to say no to dairy animals on the homestead. Getting dairy animals is a really popular topic. I think a lot of people are into raw milk right now, which is fantastic. I'm all for raw milk. So a lot of people, typically are like, well, let's get a dairy cow, or let's get some dairy goats. So the first thing that we kind of had to think through, and I think for you, if you're thinking through getting a dairy animal, is just, for one, how much time do you have? We've got a pretty big garden operation. We've got chickens that we rotate around on pasture, and we've also got sheep that we have a rotational grazing system. So that takes up a good amount of our time, and it takes time to manage those animals. It takes time to manage a garden, and so you're limited to how much time do you actually have in a day. And I can't think of something more that's going to create a large time commitment than getting dairy animals, whether that's a dairy cow or you're doing dairy goats. Because here's the thing. That animal needs milked generally twice a day. And let's say milking takes you, 30 to 45 minutes each time. So that's an hour and a half just in milking, let alone, sorting, cleaning, feeding the animal, figuring out what you're going to do with 5 gallons of milk a day, especially if you've got a dairy cow. And so for us, it was just like, man, I don't know if I want to commit that amount of time. Sorry, I got a bottle rolling around here. I don't know if I want to commit that amount of time to a dairy animal. I mean, we have busy lives still. We don't just homestead. I run 2 other businesses outside of creating content here. And so if you're willing to commit, 2+ hours a day to milking, then I think go for it. Or I don't want to say it's going to take you 2 hours to milk, but it's going to take you 2 hours to do all the other stuff, let alone all the other chores that you're going to have entailed with chickens or any other animals that you have, or if you've got a large garden operation. So for us, it was just like, man, that is a massive amount of time just for milk. And I love the idea of it, being able to make butter and cheeses, and of course that's even more time. So the time commitment is just too much. The other thing with the dairy cow, for example, is let's say you're going to buy an A2 dairy cow. I mean, you could potentially spend thousands of dollars on that. And so, not to mention milking equipment, and the list goes on. In the winter, you're going to be feeding hay, unless you're planning on using grain. So you've got a pretty large financial investment and a time investment. The other thing to think through is, I can't think of a better way to enslave you to your homestead. We just had our first son. He was born coming up on 3 weeks ago. We did a home birth. It was awesome. That's a whole nother video I want to do here soon. But we want to be able to leave. We want to be able to go on a weekend trip or vacation. That's easy to do with chickens. That's easy to do with sheep. Yeah, we rotationally graze our sheep every few days. Especially from spring through the fall when the grass is green and lush. We rotate our chickens as well. But I can set up our sheep in a new paddock, and I can push them, let's say, for 5 days in that paddock, and all I need someone to do is make sure their water tank's filled. Same with chickens. All they need to do is just come over and shut the chickens up, open them up in the morning, throw out some feed, collect the eggs, give them the eggs in exchange for them helping us, and it's all sunshine and rainbows. It's easy. I can ask my neighbor, my homesteading neighbor, to come over and do that. It'll take them maybe 10 minutes. If I'm asking my neighbor to not only help with my chickens, with my sheep, potentially with a garden, and to milk a dairy animal, that's a big ask. Not to mention, you've got to teach them how to do it. And when you think about having to milk a dairy animal twice per day, it's like, okay, I want to go to breakfast with a friend. Well, nope, got to milk the animal. I want to go out to dinner with some friends. Oh, no, well, we got to milk the animal. I think for us, it's just not a practical option. We choose to put the majority of our focus on producing meat, vegetables, and fruit on our homestead. Obviously, we're getting eggs. We're getting meat when we raise broilers, meat chickens, and we're getting meat from raising our sheep for grass-fed lamb. And then obviously the vegetable operation, we're also growing fruit. I think people have this idea that they want to be able to do it all. They want to have everything. And I'm just here to tell you, like, I'm not saying it's not possible. I just think it's not practical. I can get, like, our neighbor down the road, our friends, they are raising dairy goats. So if, like, we want to get some raw milk, we can get them from them. And so the things that you can't or don't choose to produce on your homestead, just barter or purchase them from another homesteader, another local farmer. Like, we don't raise beef. We don't have the space to do it. And that's the other thing with, like, dairy animals, or a dairy cow. Like, you need enough space, enough pasture, especially if you want to do a grass-fed dairy operation. You need enough pasture for that animal, or else you're going to be spending a lot of money on hay. So that's kind of our perspective. That's why ultimately we've chosen not to get dairy animals. I'm not against them. I think they're fantastic. You just need to really think long and hard about it, because it's a massive time investment. And I've gotten a lot of feedback from other people that have raised dairy animals, and they're like, yes, you hit the nail on the head. It is a lot of work. And so I think the biggest factor is just we want to be able to leave the homestead, and I don't want to be tied down to having potentially 2 hours of homestead chores every single day, because it's just not practical for our family. So hope you found this video helpful. See you on the next one.